Hello everyone, welcome to an Electoral College prediction video here on Voting Trend. I did one of these a few days ago, and I decided to do another one right now because we have a little bit more polling, a little bit more data. We're also getting some vote by mail numbers in and other numbers that will give us a little bit more of an idea of where the electorate is. But this map and this prediction is totally subjective. I'm just going to say that. It is subjective to what I interpret the polls as being right now, as well as the electoral history of these states and the organizational history in these states. I've worked in a lot of these states, so I know how well many of these, at least on the Democratic Party side, how many of these Democrats are organized or not. Some states are really, really good. Some states are really, really bad. Now, the colors that we're going to be using on this map are based on the likelihood of winning, not based on the percentage. So let's take the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia will be dark blue because even though the percentages could be closer, I mean, it could be within a few percent, the likelihood of the Republicans getting over the line and actually winning the state are virtually zero. So that would be something that would be a dark blue. The lighter the colors, the more of a likelihood it could swing one way or the other. So that's just what the colors mean. So let's go ahead and start off with our map that we have right now. We will start on the West Coast and move eastward. So Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, these are all going to be states that the Democrats are going to win. And when it comes to the Republicans, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah are the ones that the Republicans are going to win. Now, when it comes to Alaska, we had the one poll from Alaska not that long ago, and the Democrats are really on the upswing in the state. I am going to put Alaska kind of in this very, very, very light, not the lightest of reds, but a very light red, because looking at polling, looking at organization on the ground there and see how they do things, Alaska is a state that could possibly go Democratic. The keys to winning Alaska is getting the south of Anchorage, which is usually more Republican. If they get that, and Fairbanks, they do a little bit better there as well on the eastern side of Fairbanks, they actually can win the state. There's a possibility if this is a landslide election for Kamala Harris, this could be the Indiana that we saw in 2008. All right, now let's go ahead and let me just on the Democratic side put Colorado and New Mexico in the strong Democratic spots. Now, when it comes to Nevada, I have said this in other videos before, and I'll say it again. Nevada has an excellent Democratic machine, a machine that Harry Reid built, and it has been going on for years. There was a small time where they weren't in control of the Democratic Party, but they're still extremely strong. And the Culinary Workers Union is also strong. So you just have these two massive mobilization efforts on behalf of the Democrats. You don't have that as far as the Republicans. So I'm going to say that as of right now, Nevada is not as, it's moving out of the likely for Republicans to win category. Now, let's go ahead and look at Arizona. Now, Arizona is one right now that I'm going to put the lightest of reds because some of the data that we're seeing coming out of there doesn't necessarily look good for Democrats. Of the good polls that we've seen, the ones where the crosstabs and everything look pretty legit, it still looks like it's a little bit out of reach for the Democrats. Once we start getting some vote by mail coming in there and some early voting, we can actually make a better prediction. So in this situation, I'm still going to put, well, originally, I think last week I had Arizona in blue. I'm putting it in red now. So go North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma. Those are all going to be Republican. If we look at Nebraska at large, and then we look at Nebraska, here we go. Nebraska, oh yeah, that is the second. Nebraska first and third. Those are going to be Democratic, but I'm going to go ahead and put the second congressional district as slight Democrat based on the last election results. We haven't found really much out of the second congressional district, but this is a place where I think Tim Walz will actually have an impact. Now, when it comes to Texas, I'm not going to put them, I'm going to put them about here. Okay. Because here's the thing with Texas, we're seeing the numbers get really, really close. But as I mentioned with Virginia, we don't see the Democrats going over the line. We've seen a poll. We saw Allred go over the line in one of them, which is the reason why I'm not giving it the Virginia color. So there is a little bit of a possibility. So let's see what happens there. The Democratic organization in Texas is really good, but the Republican organization in Texas is also really good. Well, at least it was during the George Bush time and all that. I don't know how well oiled it is now, but yeah, this Texas right now is starting to be in play, just maybe not as in play as we expect. All right, so Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri. Okay, these are all going to be strong Republican states. Now, when it comes to Iowa, I'm going to put them in the same category as Texas because we had that Des Moines Register poll out there. And again, Tim Walz being from the neighboring state and also the neighboring congressional district, you do see in Iowa a lot of this neighboring effect. Go look at how Barack Obama did in these, especially in the primaries, in these eastern counties back in 2008. Okay, so there is a likelihood that, or not a likelihood, there's a possibility that Iowa can be very, very close and possibly flip, but it's in reach, but kind of a very long reach. Minnesota is going to be a state won by the Democrats. There's no doubt about that. And Illinois as well is a state going to be won by the Democrats, whereas Indiana will be won by the Republicans. Now, if we look at Wisconsin, I'm putting Wisconsin in this blue of a category. Well, no, I'm going to put them in this blue of a category. I don't think they are, at the point of Arizona. The polls look good out of Wisconsin. The organization up there is good. Democrats really do well on the state level, especially recently. And the vote by mail numbers that have come in so far from Wisconsin look good for Democrats. So that is a model that I do have, and I've been watching it. Democrats look good early on, so I think Wisconsin's going to be a Democratic state. Now, when we get to Michigan, I think we're kind of in a very light blue right here. But again, Democrats usually do quite well at the state level. Michigan can be one of those states, and it has been before, that Democrats can sometimes be underpolled. And then election day comes and they do a lot better. So I am still putting Michigan in the Democratic column, though very, very slightly. Now, obviously, if we got Ohio, the Republicans are going to win that. I did have it like this originally, but the polls that I'm seeing just doesn't show that the Democrats can go over the line. Same thing with Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi. If Mississippi starts going the way that Georgia is going, watch Mississippi in 10 years from now, right? Alabama is going to be Republican, as well as South Carolina. Okay. Now let's go ahead and look at these other states. Now, Florida, we're going to put that in the Texas category. It is looking like there could be a possibility based on voter turnout, how Florida does. Right now, the vote by mail numbers, or excuse me, the ballots have been mailed out in Florida, and we do see the Democrats down. So we do see the laws that they've changed there have an impact. I did a video on that. Go ahead and watch that so you can learn a little bit about the laws that have gone on there. But overall, the hurricane could affect how everything is. I don't see Florida in, as far as being in reach totally, though a good night can deliver it to the Democrats. Now, if we go ahead and look at Georgia, I'm going to put this in the slightest with Arizona of red, because I just haven't seen enough data that really indicates that Georgia can flip. This is another state where we really need to start seeing some vote numbers come in as far as early vote by mail, and then we can maybe see which way the wind is blowing, right? But as of right now, I think Georgia is pretty much slightly Republican. All right, now if we look at North Carolina, on the other hand, I'm going with this being slightly Democratic. And I mentioned this before in other videos. I mentioned in this one, back in 2020, I said, hey, listen, Democrats could lose Florida and then win Georgia. And now we have a situation where Democrats can win North Carolina and lose Georgia. So it's like the baton is being passed on as far as who wins or not. the numbers look good out of North Carolina. The distribution looks good out of North Carolina. So I'm able to run a model on North Carolina because votes are now starting to come in, but it is very early. But the numbers look good for the Democrats. I do think North Carolina looks good. Possibly might change in the coming days. All right, let's go ahead and look at West Virginia. Strongly Republican, and that's probably about the only time we have to use the Republican tab. So we have Maryland, Delaware, strong Democratic. We have New Jersey and all these. And like I said, New Hampshire is now a state where all of a sudden the Democrats aren't going to lose it, right? Even if Trump somehow had a really, really good night. See, I look at it this way as far as the election. It's going to either be close or Kamala Harris is going to have a really good night. There's no scenario where Donald Trump is going to have a really good night, okay? So even if Donald Trump had a good night on his side, which would pretty much be a close race, I say New Hampshire goes to the Democrats. Same thing with Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. So as you see, we're already at 267, which means when we do Maine at large, as well as the Maine 1st Congressional District, we are now at 270, right? I'm putting this one at slightly Democratic, or excuse me, slightly Republican, because I need to know a little bit more about the 2nd Congressional District. I'm just going off of voter history. So if I could get a little bit more information, I think they've already started doing like vote by mail and stuff like that. They might have even started early voting in Maine. So I'm going to go look at Maine and see if I can get some statistics from there. Now, when it comes to Pennsylvania, I feel more and more confident with Pennsylvania every day. I'm putting that in the category as Wisconsin. Okay. It still can go to the Republicans, but I don't think it's on a razor's edge like, let's say, North Carolina and Michigan are. And I think that Michigan number could eventually change. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to put District of Columbia. So even if the Republicans win Pennsylvania, you got the District of Columbia in there. And even so this is, I think, as of right now, the worst case scenario. Because I do think the Democrats will win these 2 states. And then they'll win one of these 3. And then it's it. That's game, set, match. So let me change Pennsylvania back to this. So this is what I have for the Electoral College right now. Again, I'm being very conservative. I think that the numbers could shift, but at least the Democrats have 292 electoral votes, which means they can actually lose a few and still win the presidency. Now, a lot of people are looking for a blowout election or something like that. Not me. I'm looking for 270. If we get over 270, that's what I care about. Okay. One thing the Republicans have done for years that Democrats have not done. Democrats have always been worried about blowouts. Republicans have just been worried about getting 50% plus 1 or a plurality of the votes. That's what Democrats seem to focus on. Be happy with a win. But this is what I have for today, the 27th. I will be doing another one of these in a few days, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more information to actually maybe change some of these numbers. So thank you all very much for joining me for this prediction video, and I will have another one out shortly. Have a wonderful day wherever it is you are, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.